Hello everyone. In this tutorial we're going to be extending upon the previous video I made as an introduction to multi-user editing. So this time round we're going to be using multi-user editing over the internet using a VPN solution. So in the previous video it primarily focused on using a LAN, but this builds upon that foundation and hopefully takes it to the next level. So if you recall, multi-user editing in Unreal is the toolset that allows multiple users to work together in a project at the same time. But again, what if your team isn't in the same office or on the same local network? This is where a VPN solution comes in and enabling a secure remote collaboration. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be using a tool called ZeroTier as my VPN solution. It's pretty lightweight, easy to set up, and perfect for small teams, students, indie developers, or even for those on a virtual production team who are wanting to collaborate. There are other alternatives out there, so again, I'm just going to be showing you how to set it up for ZeroTier, but feel free to explore other options out there which best works for you and your team. So to start off with, I'm going to be showing you how to download and install ZeroTier on the devices in the machines, and then how to get the IP addresses that we're going to be using that'll help form part of our multi-user session. So let's grab our keyboards and get stuck in. So here we are on our browser, and I have just went to zerotier.com and we're on its website. And again, this video, by the way, is not sponsored by ZeroTier. Feel free to use any other VPN solution you wish, but I'm just going to be going through the steps for this one. So under the tools available here, you can see under pricing, the one that I'm going to be using is actually the free tier. So perfect for hobbyists, home enthusiasts, creators, gamers, and more. So we've got an option here for one admin, 10 devices. So for our session here, we're only going to be creating 2 devices. So this is more than enough. There are other options here, as you can see, for larger projects. So feel free to explore those if you wish. So if you haven't got an account already, you'll need to go ahead and sign up. So once you come in here, you'll just sign up and get your login and password. You've also got the download tab. So under downloads, you've got various solutions here. So the one that I'll be getting is the one for Windows, but if you're on Mac, Linux, etc., and I also believe that this is available for iOS and Android as well, but obviously you couldn't do that multi-user editing over those. So ours will probably be primarily Windows, Mac and Linux you'll be focusing on here. But I'm going to choose Windows and just simply download. Okay, so once ZeroTier is downloaded, we simply run the executable and then just follow the setup instructions. So you may need administrative privileges to install this, so just follow that, just say yes, and that's pretty much it, ready to go. Okay, so once the installation has finished, ZeroTier actually doesn't have a full Windows application. What it does is just installs to your task area. So what I would suggest, if you're going to use this quite frequently, is you can leave it as start UAD login. But you can see here we have no networks joined, but it has given me this unique address. So what we need to do now is jump back into the web client. So we go back to the web and we finish the process here. So I've come back into ZeroTier. I have logged in, and you can see here the option that it gives us then is to create a network. So I'm simply going to click on that. So with that done, you can see here with the free version it allows me to set up 3 networks and includes 10 devices. So I'm just going to simply click on this network and just open it here. So under the name here, we could edit that, but this is the key network here that we want to join from our client. So all we need to do is just hit this button here, copy network ID, click, and you can see here currently no devices have joined this network. So what we do is we go down to our client in our taskbar, right click on it, join new network, and you'll get this pop-up appearing in the middle. So I'm just going to paste that same ID in there and click join. So once we have clicked join, we just want to right click and reload, and hopefully it should refresh here and say, there we go. So we have now got our client ID. You can see here this address and 90 So after I finish with this tutorial, I'm going to delete all my addresses, by the way, and my networks. This is just for demonstration purposes, obviously. But you know, if you're doing this, you can keep your video or keep your addresses, etc., going forward here. So you can see now the device has joined the network, but it says ZeroTier network should have at least 2 members to join. So pretty much what our multi-user experience is going to need. We're going to need more than 1 person in this session. So I'm going to do the same thing then on another machine. So I have now logged into the second machine. So I'm going to do the same and join that network. So if I just give it the same ID and then just wait a moment and hit reload, you will see now that the other machine has also appeared now too. Okay, so under this we can scroll down and you can see it has a network ID. What I would maybe do is rename it to something a bit more useful. So Unreal MU or something like that, Unreal Multi-User. We can see here under the IP4 auto assign, you can pick any of these IP addresses. So I'm just going to let it pick the first one. And that should be pretty much that. So if I now hit just refresh again. So now we are also getting this message to authorize. So what we need to do is allow these machines to actually access this network that we have created. So all we simply do is select each of the buttons here and then just authorize them. So once we do that, these machines will now be allowed to access this network. So, and you can see now that we no longer just have the physical IP addresses, we have these managed IP addresses. So we've got the 2 IP addresses, and these are the 2 key addresses that we're going to use within Unreal in the multi-user setup, the configuration of the static and unicast endpoints. What I could also suggest is if you've got multiple people and you're going to use ZeroTier to access it, obviously these addresses are quite obscure, so they are. So what we can do is you can click on the edit button. So we just give it a name and just put in Darren, and then on the other machine we can hit save here, and you can see now under the description we've got the name of that potential user and their machine ID. So again, it maybe just helps for things to be managed there. So I just put in another person's name. So if you have 10 people in here, it's a bit of an easier way to manage who's got access to the project and whose machine it is. So hopefully that helps. And that's pretty much a ZeroTier setup now. So all we need to do is take note of these 2 managed IP addresses that it has supplied, and those are the ones that we're going to use within our session. Okay, now that we're back in Unreal Engine, we need to get everything working from the ZeroTier information that we've just captured. So I'm going to do the same thing again, just create a third person, and this time I'm just going to call it MU test VPN. So if you remember the 2 core things when you're setting this up, across a multi-user is that all engine versions must be the exact same across the project, so everybody must be using 5.5. And the key other thing is that all project names must be the exact same. So in our case here, MU test VPN, we'll be calling it that on this machine and every subsequent machine that want to connect to the same session. In this instance, we're not going to use starter content, so all other projects will also not use the starter content either. So it's that thing that we all start on a level playing field. So I'm going to hit create. So now that we're back in the engine here with the template loaded, we need to get the plugin for multi-user up and running again. So it's up to edit, plugins, and we just simply type in multi-user. Okay, so we enable the plugin once again, say yes, and restart. Okay, now that we've restarted, we need to configure some of the settings if you recall. So you can come up to your window, multi-user browser, and remember we'll configure some of the machines very quickly here. So I'm just going to enable the multi-user toolbar button so that we have that access in the window there. I'm just going to call this Darren PC 1. Again, give ourselves a lovely color. Today we're green. So we've got that set up. And then for this case then, for a VPN, one of the other key things that you should set up here is the server port. So this is, we're going to use this machine here as the machine that's going to host the server. So I'm going to give this a server IP address of 7,000. Okay, so you can see here under advanced, we've just hit that. I'm just going to hit set as default as well and just say yes to those settings there if I do get an option about that. So with that done, we then come down to UDP messaging. I'm just going to say restart later for a moment. So under the UDP messaging, this again is where we have to configure who is going to be on our machines, who is going to connect. So we need to set up a unicast endpoints again, and if you recall, our static endpoints too. So if you come to your Windows and just hit the Windows key and type in CMD, we get this coming up, and then if you type in ipconfig, you'll see this time here because we now have ZeroTier installed, you will see that it is supplying this IP address for us. So 10.147.17.45. So because that's the server's machine, you can see it's available in the drop down. And so we just have that in there, :0. And then similarly on the static endpoints, we just add the IP address, which was the other one ZeroTier offered us. So that was 10.147.17 and just 17, and it was 32. Oh, spell it. 17.32. So you would enter there whatever the IP address is that your VPN offered you as the whatever your host machine is, and then the subsequent machines it's going to be connected within your VPN network. So in our case here, I only have only one other machine. So if you recall, we need to put in port 7,000 this time. So with that done, we can then make sure we save our project. Actually, I'm just going to hit set as default here as well, just to make sure that it captures that fully. So with that done, we have set that, and we also set our multi-user adding just for the button to come back on, give our PC a name, and we also set the server port there. So with that done, we should be okay. And now we'll need to do the exact same on the client machine. So if you recall, the client machine will have the inverse of that. So the client machine will have 10.147.17.32:0 as its unicast endpoint, and it'll have a static endpoint of 10.147.17.45 colon 7000 as its static endpoint. So we're just flipping these on the other machine. Okay, so we'll do that now. So I have now went into the other machine, which is going to join the VPN, and set its unicast endpoint and static endpoint. As I had mentioned, we were just flipping the two values, and you can see it here. So that was that machine setup. Now what I also tried to do here was add a third machine into this setup. So this third machine was a MacBook, and I got another IP address off it, off ZeroTier, which followed our same format of 10.147.17.117. Now in this case, the MacBook's unicast endpoint, when I set it to that value, it just wouldn't see the server. So if you leave the unicast endpoint as 0.0.0.0:0 on the Mac, but obviously have the static endpoints correctly set up with the IP addresses of the machines and the 7000 port, it seemed to connect fine. So again, I don't know if this is a little quirk, but it works. So to give you a quick demonstration, so here's our multi-user browser on the server machine. I'm just going to launch a server on it, so you can see it started down at the bottom here. I'm going to create a session then, just call it, I don't know, VPN test or something like that, and create it. So you can see here now on the server I have that joined. So I'm then going to just remote onto the second PC machine, and I will join it, and you will see hopefully it appearing. So there you go, Joe PC has now entered the arena. And then finally on the MacBook, I'm just going to select it, and it's seeing the correct thing, and once I hit join, there you go. So it's actually on there as Sam PC, but it's actually in a MacBook. So if I was to jump into our map, there we can see our two fellow users. Hello and hello. So that's pretty much how to set things up, and everything else is as per the previous video. So if I were to select this asset in the level and move it, that change has mapped across to the client machines who are also attached. And subsequently then, if this user on the second PC, if they were to attach the same object and this time scale it, you can see that their changes are also coming through. So everything's set up correctly. So as I mentioned then, let's keep this a very short session. What we can do now then is I'm going to take the Joe PC machine and I'm going to leave the session. So once you click leave, you'll get the message about persisting the changes, and as you can see over here in the environment, Joe PC has left the building. And then similarly on the MacBook PC, I'm just going to select it, and we will just persist the changes. I'm just going to persist those, all good, and then just leave the session, and you'll see here in the window then Sam PC has left. And then to round things off, I'm just going to come into my own machine, persist changes, just persist. You get successfully persisted, which is all good. We come up to our multi-user browser, select ourselves because there's nobody else left in the session, and you can see our transaction history, the changes we made. And if you want to see further examples of the changes you can make, please look at my other video. So we're in a position now where we just leave the session. Yes, we do, and just persist those changes. And then, as I mentioned in the other video, if we're totally done with that session, what we can do is, because we created it on this machine, we have the option to delete it, whereas the other users would not have seen that option. So I know I'm finished with this one. I'm just gonna, actually we'll demonstrate archiving it first, so we can archive it if we want to come back to it in the future. Just clicking OK, and then what we can do is delete it. But we have our archive there to come back to should we ever need to. And finally then, we'll just shut down the server. Okay, so that's been pretty much everything then. We have set up a VPN using ZeroTier. We got it configured with the IP addresses. Once we got those IP addresses, we then taken them into Unreal here and configured that. So hopefully that's helped everyone there, and I wish you happy collaborations.